We're continuing our series through the Gospel of John in chapter 21, in verses 1 through 19. Before we get there, has anybody ever watched one of the greatest movies of all time? And no, I'm not talking about Lord of the Rings. That is the greatest. I wouldn't have said one of the greatest. Land Before Time. No. Princess Bride. Anybody seen Princess Bride? Okay. It's one of the most quotable movies. It's just made for you to quote it. So good. If you haven't watched it, I don't know what you're waiting around for. Go watch it. It came out a long time ago. But there's one of my favorite characters in the movie is this guy named Vicini. He's like short, bald guy, Sicilian. He's just like really loud, and he's like the bad guy leading these two other cronies. And Vicini has kidnapped a princess, and the dread pirate Robert, who's actually Prince Wesley, or not Prince, he's not a prince, but Wesley in disguise. Anyways, trying to get them. But this guy Vicini, the bad guy, he over and over says this one word, over and over and over. And he says it really loud and in a funny way. Can we all say it together if you know it? 1, 2, 3. Inconceivable! Oh, it's so good. Inconceivable. Something happens that goes against his plan, and he is so arrogant and full of himself, he's like, it is inconceivable that things wouldn't work out according to my plan. So over and over, inconceivable. And then finally, there's this great moment where Inigo Montoya looks at him after he throws out another, inconceivable! And he says, I don't think that means what you think it means. It's a good one. If you haven't watched it, that won't make any sense to you. But I love that phrase, I don't think it means what you think it means. Because so often, I think that God would say that about us, about some things. Look at the things we do, maybe the things us, we're following Jesus, going to church, and then when you look at Scripture and read Jesus' own words, sometimes I feel like there's a mismatch where Jesus might be saying, I don't think it means what you think it means. I think about how we throw around like, I love Jesus, or just this concept like, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus. And sometimes I think Jesus would say to us, Christian, I don't know if it means what you think it means. And I think in this passage, Jesus, lovingly, caringly, but with challenge, has a conversation with Peter to help redefine for him what it means to follow him, what it means to really love him. Jesus helps Peter out with this, and we're going to dive into it. What does it mean to love Jesus? This last chapter of John, chapter 21, is kind of an epilogue. At the end of chapter 20, which we covered last week, there's kind of a nice bow to it. It wraps up, and John gives the reason for why he's writing this whole gospel. It's so that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing, you will have life in his name. And it's like, great, the end, perfect. But John's like, but I got one more story for you. And that's chapter 21. We get this one more story. Just like there's a prologue at the beginning where it's kind of cosmic. He says, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. He gives this prologue. He now gives an epilogue. He's like, just one more story I got to tell you. And so we're going to dive into that, beginning in verse 1 of chapter 21. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. If you're wondering and just jumping in with us, Jesus rose from the dead. So that's why I'm saying appeared. It's a third appearance by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, he's my boy, okay? Thomas, he's my favorite. Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, that's James and John, and 2 other disciples. I think John forgot who it was, but it was 2 other ones. Can you believe, those 2 are like, seriously? It was, Bartholomew was like, it was me, John. Anyways, 2 other disciples, were together. "I'm going out to fish," Simon Peter told them. And they said, "We'll go with you." So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. At that time they would fish throughout the night. That was kind of prime time to go fishing. So spent all night and caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, "Friends, haven't you any fish?" "No." I think it was one. "No." Yeah, they answered. He said, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat and you'll find some." Can we pause and just, Peter is a professional fisherman. That'd be like me going to Mike and who does IT stuff and be like, "Oh, are you having trouble with your computer? Do you need some help? I have some suggestions for you." And Mike is laughing now because that's what he would do. He would laugh and be like, "Really?" Or it's like when people ask me, "What should we do for landscaping?" It's, you don't want my advice. But Jesus is like giving them, these professionals, some fishing advice. Throw it on the right side. You keep doing it on the left side. What are you doing? They're over there. But they did it. What could it hurt? And when they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, "It is the Lord," he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off. It was dark, midnight. Who needs clothes? He had taken it off, and then he put it on and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, much more reasonably, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from the shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals, a charcoal fire, there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. And that number is significant because that's how many fish they caught. But even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him who you are. They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread, and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. Man, I wonder if the bread and fish was good. I bet Jesus could cook. You almost get this sense that Jesus has done this before. They were used to Jesus, he's like, "All right, I'm going to cook the food." I love the care, the time that the resurrected Jesus goes into making breakfast for his friends. There's something about it that is just man, nothing is too low for Jesus. He just wants to serve them, to have breakfast with them. He already has some fish and bread already prepared. Maybe he went out and fished and, where'd he get it? I don't know. He's Jesus, but he had it prepared. He took the time. There's care and intentionality that Jesus puts into this meeting. And of course it's breakfast, because breakfast is one of the best meals of the day. You don't have people, you don't go to a restaurant and it says, serving dinner all day long. No, but they'll say, serving breakfast all day long, and everyone rejoices. So Jesus liked breakfast, I think. Anyway, what's significant about this moment is that there's some immediate flashbacks that these disciples, and especially Peter, would have had in this interaction. 3 significant flashbacks that all of this is like a rush of memories for for Peter and the disciples. The first one is Peter's initial calling to follow Jesus. We don't get this story in John's gospel. We find it in the other gospels, specifically Luke 5, 1 through 10. In this initial calling, Peter is doing his job as a fisherman, and Jesus comes up and tells them this almost exact same thing. Throw your net on the other side. They'd spent all night, not been able to catch anything, and they're like, okay. Maybe that's why they obeyed, like, in this time at the end, because they're like, it worked last time with Jesus, so maybe this guy, okay, we'll try it. But they throw it, and they get all sorts of fish, and this is the interaction, though, that follows after this miracle of all this fish. Peter goes down before Jesus, drops to his knees, and says to him, "Depart from me, get away from me, for I'm a sinful man." Peter knew he was a sinner, and he also knew that Jesus was holy. And so what happens when sin and holiness come together? It's like, whoa, like, I can't even be in your presence. Like, some of you have probably heard people, maybe you've said these words out of the mouth yourselves, like, oh, I couldn't walk into church, a lightning bolt would hit me. Like, because that comes out of this, they're like, you don't know what I'm into, you don't know where I've been, you don't know my past. Like, if I walked into a holy place like church, like, it wouldn't mix well. So Peter's like, depart from me, for I am sinful. And what does Jesus respond? It's, follow me, and I'll help you fish for people. But this time, same miracle, but it's 3 years later. Peter has walked with Jesus. He knows Jesus. These two things haven't changed, knowing his sinfulness and knowing Jesus' holiness. In fact, those have increased. He knows even more so that he's a sinner. He's denied Jesus 3 times at his greatest hour of need. He knows Jesus is very holy. He rose from the dead. Those two things haven't changed, they've just increased. But Peter responds differently. Instead of saying, get away from me, Jesus, like, you don't know, like, I'm sinful. Instead, the dude dives off the boat and races with reckless abandon to get close to Jesus. And why? Because after walking with 3 years, he knows Jesus. And he knows that he can trust Jesus with his failures. That although he is a sinner, and although Jesus is holy, he knows that Jesus loves him and is full of grace. He can trust him. He can trust God with his failures, his brokenness, his sin. And so he books it towards Jesus. So that's the first flashback, his initial calling to follow Jesus. Second flashback would have been to the last time they shared a meal together, the Last Supper. They're eating breakfast together, and they would have been thinking about the last time they broke bread with Jesus, and that was at the Last Supper. In John's gospel, we don't just get the Last Supper story, but we also get the foot washing story, where Jesus, he puts on the attire of a servant, wraps it around him, and then he washes his disciples' feet. Two things happen in that interaction in that room at the last meal after the foot washing. One, while Jesus is washing the other disciples' feet, when he gets to Peter says something. He's the loudmouth of the group. And Peter says to him, "Oh no, you will never, ever wash my feet." Because he knows if anyone should be washing feet, it should be Peter washing Jesus' feet, not Jesus washing Peter's feet. So he's like, whoa, you'll never wash my feet. Like, no way, Jesus. This isn't right. And Jesus then says to him, unless I wash you, you will have no part with me. You can't belong to me unless you receive this. And Jesus right there sets the standard, not just for Peter, but for all of us, of how we come to him, how we belong to him. It is not from us earning our spot with him, but it's receiving, which humbles us to the ground. Like, you know when someone who you should be serving but serves you, and it's just like, you feel anxious. You're like, ugh. Like, no, let me do it. But Jesus is like, that's not how this works. If you're going to belong to me, it can't be off of your earning, your good works, because you're not going to get there. You're not going to earn your spot. But you got to receive. You got to let me serve you. And so then Peter's like, all right, fine, give me a full bath, Jesus. And Jesus is like, settle down. The feet are enough, okay? The second thing that happens during that meal, it's near the end. Jesus told them, hey, someone's going to betray me, and then one of you. And then he says, I'm about to go away. I'm going to be gone. And where I go, you can't follow. And Peter's like, whoa, where are you going? Like, what's going on? And Jesus tells them, where I'm going, you can't follow now, but you will follow later. Then Peter asks, Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. That's Peter. He's all passion. He's all in all the time. And so he's like, I'm ready to die for you. Let's go, put the handcuffs on. Like, wherever you go, I'll go. I'm in. I'm ready to lay down my life for you. And Jesus, who knows his heart, says, actually, in fact, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. And that leads to the third flashback that Peter would have had in this moment. His initial calling, the meal that he had with Jesus, and then the third flashback would have been Peter denying Jesus 3 times. In John 18, we learn that while Jesus is on trial before the high priest and just getting grilled, getting spit on, mocked, and ultimately sentenced to go to Pilate and then to his death, Peter's in the courtyard, nearby, kind of close. He's before a fire, a charcoal fire, a heap of burning coals, and warming himself with the other people. And that word is used only 2 times in Scripture, a charcoal fire, a fire with like burning coals in it. It's used at Peter's denial and then at this breakfast that Jesus prepared for him. And so the visual, the smell, all of that would have just so strongly brought Peter back. And Jesus seems to set up this moment to draw all those flashbacks to Peter's mind. And it's not because, in one sense, it sounds kind of hard in that Jesus is setting up this scenario for Peter to be reliving his most shameful moments. But Jesus isn't as concerned about being nice or polite to Peter, but because he loves him so much, he's like, I am not willing for you to stay where you're at. There's something more I'm going to call you to. There's healing that needs to be done in you, so I'm going to bring this up again for you. Because the first time we were before the charcoal fire and you denied me, you were very far from me. But now at this time, you're running towards me, and so now I can speak into this. And so Jesus takes that moment to do that. I've said this a while ago in a sermon, and I think it's true. Human race, we call ourselves human beings, right? Any human beings out there? Only a couple. This is concerning. Artemis 2 came back and some alien stowaways, I don't know. Human beings. But I think, and this will never catch on, but I think we're more appropriately should be called human becomings. We are not just being, we're not just static of who we are, but you are becoming someone. Every thought, every action, everything that happens to you and your response to that, you are in the process of becoming. This is true on a biological level, like your cells replace themselves. You are truly becoming someone new and changing. But it's true on a soul level, mental level, all of it. It is true that you are becoming someone. And please hear me on this. Following Jesus, it means giving Jesus the loudest voice and influence into the person you are becoming. That's what it means to follow Jesus. And so in this moment, this shameful, hard failure moments for Peter, Jesus is like, hey, you're a human becoming. You're becoming someone. Let me speak into who you are becoming. And so that's what Jesus does. John 21, 15 through 19, we're going to pick up the story. Verse 15, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. And again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Peter thought that the way he was going to prove his love for Jesus was through some kind of heroic action. You see it in his in that final meal, the Last Supper, where Jesus is like, hey, I'm going to go away. And Peter's like, I'll lay down my life for you. So much of Peter's like heart and mind, you can see just his imagination going. He's like, he wants to be first. He wants to be the most devoted, and he wants Jesus to know it. He's like, I don't know about these other guys, but I'm going to lay down my life for you, Jesus. I'm your number one. I'm your right hand. Like, that's me. The thing is, though, he thought he could prove his love for Jesus through heroic action. His ego was so attached to his calling, his following of Jesus. They were just so intertwined. And Jesus had to just dispel him of that, of like, hey, if you're going to truly live into who you are becoming, the vision I have for you, your purpose, what you can do for me, you're so into doing things for me. If you're going to live into that, like this, you got to separate your ego from this because it's not about you. It's not about what you can do for me. And you see that in the just kind of tearing down of his life that he kind of does from his own actions, like that gets stripped away. And it's at this point then that Jesus can build into him a new identity. And it's a new identity that's not based off of ego. It's like, I'll lay down my life for you. I'm your number one, Jesus. And it's not based on shame. Depart from me. I'm sinful. But it's an identity based on grace. Where Jesus alone is the reason I can stand before God with confidence. And it's not because I'm good, but because Jesus is good. And when your identity is based on grace, not ego or shame, that you step into like a whole nother realm of who you can become. And Jesus wants to bring not just Peter, but all of us into that. 3 times Jesus asked him that question, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And it matches up with his 3 denials. For every denial that Peter had of Jesus, saying, I don't know him. I don't know that guy. I'm not one of his disciples. Jesus asked the question, do you love me? And gives Peter the opportunity to confess his love. But in the midst of that, Jesus redefines for him what that love means, what it is. What does it mean to follow Jesus, to love him? He redefines that for them because it's not what Peter thinks it means. In the response to Peter saying, yes, I love you, 3 different times in some variation, Jesus says, feed my sheep. Take care of my sheep. In John, that's code for Jesus' people, those who believe in his name and follow him. So Jesus is saying, okay, you love me, and I hear that. But the way in which you will show your love, the evidence of your love, is not going to be from Peter being number one disciple. It's serve your brothers and your sisters. Take care of them. Feed them. Love them. John 13:34-35. After Jesus has washed his disciples' feet, he tells them, now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you are to wash one another's feet. And then he says, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples, if you love one another. What's the litmus test for loving Jesus? It's loving others. Jesus in his humility is even like, hey, I know you're super into me. That's great. Awesome, Peter. But look around you. Love me by loving them. And that is how people will know if you're really following me. And if you're not following me. That is the mark of discipleship. And I still struggle with this. I get caught, I feel like Peter kind of caught sometimes in I got to do all these things for God. And then God's like, redirect. Go home, love your kids, love your wife. Love the people around you. Talk to your neighbor. Feed the hungry. You have a food pantry. Use it, do it, get involved. Visit the sick. Take care of the sheep. I think that's a calling not just for Peter, not just for Matt, not just for me. Jesus is calling us into this new command. Hey, this is what it looks like to follow me. It's in loving the people around you. It's so practical. It's in the everyday. It's not just coming once a week to church and giving it your all. It's in the everyday. But here, I know some of you are hearing me say that and you're like, man, I am failing. Woo. Take any person in the Bible who does something big for God and read about their failures. Does not sugarcoat it. Just like with Peter, so for you, Jesus longs for your restoration. He's not going to say, that was just too far. I've had enough. I'm done. No. He's making breakfast. He's inviting you to come. And he said, what I'm calling you to do, you first receive it from me. He tells Peter, feed my sheep. What has Jesus just done? Literally fed him. He's telling him, hey, it's not about just doing it all on your own. Receive from me. Receive this from me. And what you receive from me, then and only then can you give to others. I'm going to invite the band up for a response song. And during this response song, I want to challenge you to whatever's stirring in your heart, whatever you're hearing from the Lord, from the Word, to respond to that. I love that the way Jesus kind of concludes all this conversation, he gives him the call again. He says, follow me. Peter has been following Jesus 3 years. He's already taken up this, I'll follow you. But man, I found in my life, it's not just a one-time call. It's like, yes, Jesus, I'll give you everything. You have it all. And Jesus is like, thanks so much. By the way, you're not following me in this area. Oh, yeah. Okay, follow me. Got it. The next day. Oh, what about this? It's over and over and over. It's a lifelong invitation that Jesus gives you. Follow me. Follow me. What's your next yes, your next step in following the Lord? He invites you to that. So in this time of response, you can worship through song. You can come to the altars to pray. I'm going to stand just to the edge over there. If you want someone to pray directly for you, I'd love to pray with you. But however you respond to the Lord. Do it. He's inviting you for restoration, for healing, to call you into something deeper, He is inviting you again, follow me, follow me, follow me, into the fullness of his grace. And we'll never reach the end of that. So respond to the Lord who loves you, who knows your name, and is inviting you into an identity, who you are, who you're becoming, that's based on his grace. So I'll invite you, for those who want to and are able, to stand, and let's sing and respond to the Lord.